Welcome everyone to the Customer First Technology webinar. This webinar is brought to you by Etleap, Looker, and eMoney. I'm Charles Northup. I'm the head of marketing for Etleap, and today we're going to learn about choosing SaaS technologies that help you put your customers first. In doing that, we're going to hear from three people. First, we're going to hear from Erin Franz. She's a senior technology alliances manager at Looker. Then we're going to hear from Christian Raming. He's the CEO and founder of Etleap, an ETL solution for enterprises. And then finally, we're going to hear from Barry Efron, the VP of Business Analytics and PMO at eMoney. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. So please join me in welcoming Erin from Looker. Erin, take it away.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm just going to give a brief overview of Looker. Here we are. So first, Looker as a company. Looker has over 1,900 customers. We've been around, I think, for the past 6 or 7 years with a global presence. Our headquarters is actually in Santa Cruz, California, about an hour and a half south of San Francisco, where we also have an office. And then we've got our EMEA headquarters in Dublin, and then scattered offices around the world, with our most recent office being in Tokyo. We have strategic partnerships with all the cloud companies and a huge partner ecosystem, including partners like Etleap, which are super important to our product and the company. And then, yeah, we've raised $280 million in funding, but of course, most recently, we announced that we will be acquired by Google. So when we talk about Looker, we talk about the data platform. So what does that mean? When we talk about a modern data platform, we say that it's a return to a unified, trusted, and complete view of your business data. So leveraging consistent business definitions across your reports so they can be trusted. Next is leveraging a new architecture with the flex and scale to tackle the modern data ecosystem. So a modern architecture is what we mean there, and I'll explain what that is more specifically on the next slide. And then finally, actionable insights delivered when and where they're needed. So taking data from your analysis, from the reports that you're looking at, and actually delivering it downstream to tools and other processes to use it. How Looker accomplishes this is simplified in 3 ways. So the first being 100% in database. So all of the modern data warehouses have really emerged in the market over the past 10 years or so, and Looker really takes advantage of the power and performance of those databases by not moving that data into our tool, rather querying that data where it lives. So data is fresh. It's as real time as the data in the database. It provides business users access across the entire data set that you'd like to give them access to that resides in your data warehouse, and offers a comprehensive view of those data sources. How Looker accomplishes this is via our flexible modeling layer, which we call LookML. So LookML is the modeling layer in Looker where you define all your business logic. And at the end of the day, it's really defining the components of SQL queries that at the end of the day will be executed by Looker, which allows us to maintain our in-databases architecture. So by having this modeling layer, the single source of truth, we're able to centralize business metrics in one place, automatically suggesting relationships between tables in your database, and then having analysts augment that with all of the custom business logic. And then lets business users ask complex questions without worrying about the complexity, because they can trust those business definitions, which gives more time back to the analyst team to work on more advanced tasks. And then finally, Looker leverages a web architecture, so a modern architecture which allows for easy collaboration, because you're accessing Looker just in the browser where you're doing the rest of your tasks. We also have an API, striving for 110% API coverage, so you can do everything within the application via our API plus more. And then finally, it provides extensibility and connectivity to thousands of web services, since it is a web application at the end of the day. So what does Looker look like? just to go over the architecture, first, we're relying on our customers to centralize data into their databases using partners like Etleap to do all of the centralization across application data sets, transactional databases, business planning software, web analytics as an example, into one centralized location. Then in Looker, you're defining that business logic in that LookML modeling layer. And then finally, that's exposed foremost in the web interface, which we talked about, which allows for self-service exploration, visualization. You, of course, can export that data. That accomplishes a lot of our internal BI use cases. But you can also take Looker and embed it. So you can take any component of Looker, embed it as an iframe. You can also use JavaScript embed and take those components, the visualizations, dashboards, full Explore experiences, and embed them in your own website or application for downstream users to leverage. Finally, we also have scheduling capabilities. So you can take data from Looker and bring that, whether it's via email or to downstream applications via webhooks or to file systems like S3 or SFTP. We've also built out something called the Action Hub, where third parties can build integrations to their own applications, and we can send data directly from Looker downstream just using our scheduling capability. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have a full-featured API, which you can use to accomplish all of the tasks of the application, but also you can serve the results from Looker to your own interface. So you can leverage the modeling layer and then use that data to power your own visualizations or however you want that data to look. Customers, Looker is very cross-vertical because it can be customized to any data set, but we have many customers in the financial services vertical, and of course including eMoney. So that will pass it over to Christian to cover Etleap.
Thanks, Erin. Yep, next up we've got the CEO and founder of Etleap, Christian Romming. So with that, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Travis. I'm really excited to hear from Barry about how they use analytics to improve the customer experience. And so for context, I thought it would be useful to give you a brief introduction to Etleap and why we believe there's a need for a new approach to ETL. So at my previous company, we had data in file stores, databases, and lots of different cloud services. There was a lot of data value in this data, and my team of analysts and scientists wanted access to all of it. So building a data warehouse ended up being very expensive because the CTO had to dedicate multiple engineers to it. But in spite of our best efforts, the data warehouse turned into a maintenance headache, and neither the analysts nor the dev team were particularly happy about that. And governance and data stewardship were also big challenges because of the large number of disparate data sets, disparate data sources that we had, and all the different kinds of transformations that we had implemented. So to try and address these challenges, we evaluated a bunch of ETL tools, but couldn't really find one that was both well suited for the cloud and would also decrease our overall engineering efforts. On a more positive note, though, we knew that if we were able to avoid these sort of galloping engineering costs and keep our pipelines under control, there were these massive benefits to be reaped in terms of faster access to more data. And so that is why we designed Etleap, basically to do just that. So Etleap is a cloud-native software as a service ETL solution for building data warehouses and lakes. So it integrates out of the box with web services, databases, and file stores. And that's what you see on the left here in the diagram. And on the destination side, we integrate tightly with Amazon Redshift, with Snowflake, and data lake technologies. Etleap's web UI lets both developers and analysts set up connections and data pipelines in minutes. And our data wrangler and modeling tools make it possible to define transformations without scripting or coding. So Etleap integrates any data source into the data warehouse. Sources can be on premises or in the cloud, and they can be structured, like databases, or semi-structured, like files or event streams. There are over 50 sources that are supported out of the box. But something that's unique about Etleap is that we can build out support for new sources on demand with a turnaround time of just a few weeks. And this way, our customers can integrate all of their data into their data warehouse, no matter where it's living. So Etleap combines the power of a traditional ETL solution with the ease of deployment of a SaaS service. And so what I mean by that? Well, Etleap has enterprise ETL features such as transformation capabilities, historical data retention, and private cloud deployment options. But at the same time, we're SaaS, so there's no infrastructure to operate, and there's no need for ETL engineers or professional services to set up, maintain, or scale. And the effect of that is that it's easier to bypass tedious implementation projects, even when the transformation needs and the ETL project needs are fairly complex. There are two deployment options. So Etleap is either way, it's deployed as a managed service with a hosted option, which is which is illustrated on the left here. Data flows through Etleap's multi-tenant infrastructure into your lake or warehouse. With the in-VPC option, which is illustrated on the right, Etleap is deployed on servers within your AWS account, and data does not leave your AWS environment as a result. And that's it for the Etleap intro.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Christian. Finally, we're going to move to the star of the show, Barry Efron at eMoney. Barry has worked in the finance technology sector for over 2 decades and is now the Vice President of Business Analytics and PMO for eMoney, financial planning software that helps people talk about money. So everyone here, please give her a warm welcome, and I will pass it over to her.
Today we'll walk you through unpacking technology and the customer journey, and the Etleap Looker partnership is a big piece of that, but we're going to cover a lot more throughout the talk. eMoney, at its core, is actually a software provider as well. So we build software, trying to back up here. We build software for investment advisors so they can help their customers talk about money, as Travis said, and really build a strong relationship and using technology as the conduit. We're constantly evolving our approach to how we support our customers and the experience that they have with us. So by extension, then our investment advisors are constantly evolving the experience that their customers have, and so on and so on. This is really the key to winning, this evolutionary process, and that's what we'll talk about. We'll walk through how we do this, our approach to internal operations, and how it relates to a customer first way of thinking and really a way of working. So it's really about changing the relationship with your customers. The subscription model, the business demands extraordinary customer loyalty. So I think well beyond what your products and services are offering. It's about your customer service and the ways and innovation that you are able to reach your customers. So we'll talk today about what does it take to build this loyalty from the inside out, looking at it from an operational perspective. What are the operations that you need to run a subscription business, and how are those really different from how you would run any other kind of business? And how do you constantly evolve the approach that you take to customer experience? So I think, what we're going to talk about here, this is table stakes, right? Win, retain, grow the relationship. License fees are a core part of the subscription business. I think that the difference really here is the cost of acquisition in a subscription model is very high. So we work really hard to win our customers. We work even harder to keep our customers. And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today will help you understand that piece of the puzzle. Additionally, every dollar is a flight risk, right? So competition is, as you know, out there, fast and furious. if we're not looking for frictionless ways to enhance our customer experience, we're gonna lose them. A really good example of that is just out of the typical software space. If you think about a Tesla, right? Tesla has a little app in the car where kids can draw on it and they can submit their artwork to Elon Musk. Really cute. Has nothing to do with cars, right, at all, but everything to do with customer experience. So you can see how they're innovating, not just around a car, right? Like if you think of cars, you're probably thinking of speed, performance, I don't know what else, but people that like cars have a whole thing about that. They're adding things like fireplaces into their cars and apps for their kids, right? This is all about the customer experience and what they feel they need to win. What are the differentiators, right? So how are they different? And it's not just about the performance of the automobile. And this is what we're really going to talk about today. So at eMoney, we look at our customer journey and we dissect it into, this is a very, very high level view of a customer journey. We dissect this into hundreds and hundreds of events. And the difference, I think, in what we do compared to how other companies approach it is we'll take, for example, this one user onboarding dot that you see there, and we'll dissect it into the operations, the technology needed to support it. It becomes a project, but that project encompasses the team, the technology, and the vision. And we go through that methodically, so on and so forth. So we, as leaders, lock ourselves in a room, and I'm not just talking about the product and the tech world, but the whole company, client services, finance, accounting, FP&A, everybody, marketing especially. And we really seek to understand the details behind the customer journey and prioritize the improvements along the customer journey together. And then we'll get into what that means for the data, the enterprise technology, and the operations. I really do like to focus on that 0-minute onboarding because there are, I believe, almost 9 separate teams working on that. So legal, our contracts team, our trainers, sales, obviously, right? Even marketing from a lead perspective. So so many different teams come together and optimize the technology and the experience for those customers. So it's really important. Many times the vision for the technology shifts will even change the way the teams are interacting, those separate teams, or the way those teams are designed. And that's something that we're constantly shifting and moving. So what I was really hoping everyone will walk away from today with is the how. So how do we do it? And we'll walk through that in detail in this slide. At the very core, and like I discussed previously, we really look at our business operations and our technology architecture, and we marry them together. So we make sure that we're not just implementing technology that optimizes a team at eMoney to do its job, but around that piece of the customer journey. So really, really critical there that sometimes the technology is leading the vision, sometimes the consortium of different operational teams is leading that vision, but we're looking at it from that lens. And I think that's a differentiator. So we make sure we're always architecting our technology solutions to harvest high quality data assets. So really important, the data analytics layer, which is obviously the core of what we're focused on today, needs to live on top of that. If you don't have that base layer, you're not going to have good high quality data. But if you don't have that centralized data and analytics layer, you really can't glean insights from your enterprise operations. So having that really crisp, clean data and analytics layer, and we'll dive in a little bit more into that in a second, is the critical next step to the puzzle. So beyond the data, if we're not prioritizing together, so like I said, locking ourselves in that room and really dissecting the customer journey together, all disciplines at the same time, we can't unite around a common backlog. So if we're not united around a common backlog, what happens is you typically fall down on optimizing for the points in the customer journey instead of and teams will naturally pivot to optimize for their own groups. So having that feedback loop from a very focused group and diverse group of leaders is critical. And hopefully where you're getting to is they're using the data and analytics to make good decisions about prioritizing the next piece of technology to implement. And then at the very top, and we're not here yet, but we know we need to get here. We know we need to have machine learning and understand and speak and communicate with our customers the same way, like Amazon Prime communicates with me when I'm ordering my groceries, right? So that kind of technology is obviously out there. It's available. You can't achieve it unless you have that really strong data and analytics layer. So I think, we're getting close. We started this journey about 14 months ago. We'll be at that top layer probably mid-2020. So I'm really happy with the progress we're making. We need that AI-enabled customer experience just in order to stay competitive with what our customers are experiencing every day, not just with their software, but with their car, right? Their grocery store. This is table stakes, and we need to be equivalent to them. So the goal here is change the conversation. Change the conversation from what your operating teams are focused on today to really optimizing for that customer journey. So diving in really to how we look at our enterprise systems, we put the customer at the middle of that as well. And I think what we do well here that enables a really strong data and analytics layer is making sure that all these systems are talking to each other. So our data is nicely joined because our systems are very strategically joined. We definitely look for the best in class internal tool stack. Mostly we're looking for partners as vendors the same way we hope our customers are looking for good partners in us as vendors. We find that if we try to build our own or if we sort of go outside best in class, these tools can't talk to each other as well. So when we're doing bake-offs and looking for new vendors, it's sort of a non-starter if there's not an integration capability. So this is just a smattering of what we've got. We run almost, like most companies, 40, 42, I think, different tools, and they're all integrated and talking to each other. I think as time progresses, it's going to be easier and easier to add more tools or plugins or add-ins to your tech stack and really build on the customer experience by doing that. So similar to what Erin showed, this is our framework. We have, I think, almost 9 systems. This is just an example that are connected through Etleap into our Redshift database. We add as needed, again, based on that common feedback loop. Then the Looker governance layer sits on top of Redshift, and then we take advantage fully of all the interactions that Looker has to offer. So I think walking away from this or looking at this, it yielded a very fast ramp-up time, and we were really able to have a good look at our data set. I was surprised relatively quickly. Security is a big piece of this puzzle. And Christian, I'll let you dive in and talk about it.
Cool. Yeah. So if you can switch to the next slide, great. So this is a sort of an architecture diagram of how Etleap is deployed for eMoney. You can see there's eMoney's AWS environment there on the left, and inside of that there are resources that Etleap manages inside of that environment. So sort of at a high level, right? We're integrating, or Etleap is integrating tightly with native AWS services. And by deploying this way, we're able to meet eMoney's strict security requirements, while at the same time we're making infrastructure deployment and operations really straightforward. And so again, the big picture here is that sensitive data. So all of eMoney's sort of data from the services that Barry talked about is secured inside of eMoney's virtual private cloud on AWS, while metrics, right, about data pipeline health and latency and those kinds of things are shipped back to Etleap. That's the arrow going from the firewall to the monitoring service there on the right. And this enables Etleap to provide the high level of support that's expected of a SaaS service, and it eliminates the need for eMoney to have data engineers dedicated to ETL. I think that's all I'll say about this feature.
Thanks, Christian. All right. So, look, adding that data layer on top of our architecture and operational ecosystem has been pivotal. Where we are today, so we've moved away from a reactive mode, firefighting. We're in a very proactive mode to the best of our ability. I mean, look, we all work at relatively large companies. We understand fires happen, but we're much more proactive, and we're able to be more proactive than we used to be. From a business operations perspective, I would say, looking back 18 months, we were largely fragmented, so not focusing on that customer journey, and those different groups were really solving for themselves. Now we're looking at end-to-end business solutions and end-to-end technology. So we're implementing technology as a group, which leads to that connected ecosystem of tools, and then leads to a nice, healthy data set inside of Redshift. From a tech perspective, I would say 2 years ago, even a little bit less, we were really pushing paper. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, we were relatively offline, so we were faxing contracts to our customers. But now we're really fully automated and at the point where we're making tech improvements rather than implementing new technology. So that's a really nice place to be. From a build and deliver, we are as agile as we can be. We did used to do really big tech overhauls or enhancements, and we're able now to move bite-sized pieces of change into the organization, which really helps from jolting the team members and the employees, and more just infusing continuous change from a tech and an operations change perspective into the system. It's a much healthier way to approach continuous delivery, and really more than just how we manage our technology, but how we manage the teams as well. So measure, learn, communicate. We are becoming data-driven. We are very much gut before. I wouldn't say we're 100% where we want to be yet, but I think in the data game, you never 100% get there, because you always want a little bit more. Making a ton of progress there, and that's really the wrapper around the whole ecosystem that we're building here at eMoney. So, I mean, really the takeaways that I'm looking for, I'd like you to take away just high quality engagement with the customers, the goal, constant innovations, the game, prioritize the moments that matter for your customers, and do that by building that cross-functional leadership team that's really prioritizing the technology. Build business operations and technology that flow together with purpose. So that's a really important piece of the puzzle. Have vision prior to jumping into an operational change, and make sure that your tech partners are really by your side the entire time. And then instill a focus on continuous delivery of change. So those big bang changes, they just jolt the org and really create setbacks rather than forward momentum. So make sure you're attempting to infuse small bite sizes of change into the system. So I hope that was helpful. I'm definitely open for questions.
Cool. Yeah, next we'll take it actually to a Q&A. So this is a point I wanted to open it up to our attendees to ask any of our panelists questions. So Aaron, it looks like you turned off your mic, but in case I have a question for you, you can have that on. But yeah, go ahead and open up the chat window, any attendees, and you should be able to ask us questions. right, looks like we got our first one. Okay, so this question is for Barry. The question is, with so many SaaS applications, does it ever become difficult managing so many external relationships, and how do you overcome that?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a mix of investment level and tech infrastructure level to sort of classify or qualify the way we manage the relationship. So obviously, our largest investments, we're meeting with those relationship managers weekly. We're keeping them abreast of our roadmaps and so on and so forth. As the tech investment or the integration diminishes, we will meet with them weekly, less than weekly, maybe monthly, or just keep open lines of communication through email. And then for the smaller partnerships, we just really leave it to the business owners to manage those and then escalate if they have issues. So we sort of categorize them and approach it that way.
Awesome. Okay, we got another question. This one is for Aaron at Looker. Aaron, the question is, how easy is Looker to implement? I know the answer to that one.
I don't think that's an easy question to answer, but it's really easy to get started with Looker, assuming you have data in a database that Looker supports. So because Looker's architecture doesn't store any data, basically we just connect to supported data sources via JDBC and are querying that data directly. So when you connect your database, Looker runs a generator on the database that you've connected to get you started with a LookML project, and you can be up and running at least with basic reporting rather quickly. Our modeling language is text-based, so it can be really easy to iterate on developing in it, and it's Git version controlled, so developers can be developing simultaneously with a production version available to the end consumers.
Cool. All right, it looks like I found an Etleap question as well. The question is, can Etleap integrate with on-premise sources like legacy ERP systems? So that's for you, Christian.
Sure. So yeah, so it's a good question. It's pretty common to have sort of a combination of data sources. Let's say you're just getting started with the cloud, right? You're in the process of moving your various workloads to the cloud, and your data warehouse is one of them. And so the situation that many of our customers find themselves in is they have some systems on premises and then some systems in the cloud, and both need to make it into the data warehouse. And so yes, we go to great length to make sure you can get all of your data into your data warehouse. So whether that means proxies, agents, SSH tunnels, we basically support all of that. And as I mentioned earlier, we also build we build out support for legacy data source types and APIs and that sort of thing, and have a relatively quick turnaround time for new sources. And once we turn them around, they're sort of supported, right? So you don't need to have any sort of in-house expertise on how those integrations work.
Cool, thank you. We got another one for Looker. This one I really like. It's why do Looker and Etleap complement each other so well? So I think that's for you, Aaron.
Sure, I can start. Christian can fill in, but yeah, Looker and Etleap are super complementary because, as I mentioned before, Looker doesn't do anything, database and before. So Looker needs data to be from disparate sources that you want to analyze with Looker to be centralized and then transformed into a way in which Looker can query it and make it available to end consumers. So basically Looker and Etleap can really complete the stack with a database that Etleap supports.
If you have anything to add there, Christian, feel free.
Yeah, sure. I'll just mention that, as Erin mentioned earlier, right? Looker takes advantage of the sort of new superpowers, right? The cloud data warehouses, the modern cloud data warehouse technology possess, and Etleap believes in the same kind of direction, right? So we integrate very tightly on the other end, right, on the ingestion side, and on the modeling side, right, with these data warehouses, and yeah, so it's highly complementary in that way.
Cool. Barry, we have another question for you, which is, what are some specific reasons that your team chose Etleap and Looker over other, say, ETL or BI tools?
Sure. That's a really good question, because we did a pretty exhaustive bake-off leading up to our implementation. I think a key component from the Looker perspective was that data governance layer, that middle layer. We wanted a single source of truth. That was really important to us. And from the Etleap perspective, we wanted like a low-tech overhead for us, but high-tech capabilities. So we knew that if we attempted to build these ourselves, our ramp time would be really slow. And so Etleap provided a really fast ramp from a connections perspective. Actually, we were up and running, from a tech perspective, we were up and running in 6 weeks, which was incredible.
Wow, that's really cool. I think we have time for one more. Looking through comments here. Looks like we have one for you, Christian. It says, what type of skill set does it take to deploy and operate Etleap?
Sure. So as mentioned earlier, we have two deployment models. A hosted model where you essentially use our multi-tenant solution. It's very straightforward to get started. Pipeline setup can be done in a couple hours, and then you have data in your warehouse. With the in VPC deployment, obviously there is some more work to do, and that services need to be deployed within AWS. The good news is the cloud makes it straightforward, so Etleap provides CloudFormation or Terraform templates to basically make it a sort of a one-click start. So your DevOps team can usually do that relatively quickly, and then you have your entire Etleap environment. The days of needing dedicated engineers for ETL are in the past.
That's awesome, and a good way to finish off the webinar. That concludes the webinar, everyone. For more information on Etleap, Looker, and eMoney, you can visit our websites, which I've put on the screen here. And aside from that, we thank you for joining this webinar and hope to hear from you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.